Welcome to day 2 of virtual VBS. We're going to pick up the Joseph story where we left off. So we have got part 2, Joseph in prison. Still we're in the book of Genesis, the first book of the Bible, chapter 40, and also chapter 41, verses 1 through 36 is what we're doing today. And our theme is talk to God. Our Bible point today, talk to God, which we also call prayer, praying. All right? So, we ended yesterday with Joseph in jail. So he went from Jacob's favorite son and getting that coat of many colors to being thrown in a well and sold to some slave traders that were going by, and went off to Egypt, which was very far away from his homeland. But then who he was bought by was actually a fairly nice guy, and Joseph ended up at the top of the household. But then lies were told about Joseph, and Joseph was thrown into jail even though he didn't do anything wrong. So he keeps having these ups and downs, ups and downs. Kind of sounds like life, right? Although these are pretty high ups and really low downs because he's in jail. And he's a foreigner in this jail, so there's really no reason for anybody to ever get him out. But Joseph is a really great guy. He's got a great attitude. He believes in God. He believes that God sees him. He communicates with God regularly. He talks to God. He prays. And he thinks that, his situation might change one day. And he does the best he can in jail. He's good with the guards. He's good with the other people. He does what he's supposed to do. Well, one day, 2 interesting inmates come in with him. They're from Pharaoh's palace. Now, Pharaoh is the ruler in Egypt, okay? So he's got a lot of people who work for him. He's got the chief cupbearer. So this is the guy who tastes everything, tastes the drinks before Pharaoh gets them, which is important in case it's poisoned. And we've got the chief baker. Both of these guys are high up in the palace, but they've done things that got Pharaoh mad, so they're in jail. And Joseph becomes friends with them because he's a good guy. Like I said, he's an honest guy, he's friendly. And one day, the 2 of them have some really weird dreams. And they can't figure it out. They're like, these dreams we feel they've got a meaning, but we just can't tell what that meaning is. And Joseph says, well, interpreting dreams is actually God's business, but I communicate with God. I'm going to help you and ask his help. So he says, what were your dreams? So the first one to talk is the cupbearer. So he says, well, I had a dream, and there was a vine of grapes. And on that vine were 3 bunches and blossoms of grapes. And I squeezed out some grapes into Pharaoh's cup. And you can squeeze it if you want. And he took a drink, and everything was great. And Joseph says, after, praying about what could this mean, he says, I know what it means. The reason there were 3 is because in 3 days, you're going to be back in the palace helping Pharaoh again, being his cupbearer. The cupbearer's great. That's a terrific interpretation of that dream. So then the baker says, well, I had a really strange dream too. In my dream, I've got a basket of bread. There are 3 pieces of bread. But all of a sudden, birds come down. They start eating the bread. And they eat it all up. What does it mean? And Joseph says, I am sorry to tell you this, but in 3 days, you're not going to be back to your old job. You're not going to be alive anymore. And the chief baker is, oh no, that's terrible. And I'm sure he was hoping Joseph was wrong, right? And in 3 days, they end up leaving. And Joseph says, as they're going, he's like, don't forget me. Please tell Pharaoh I'm in here and that I would like to get out because I actually did nothing wrong. And so they go off. And you know how much time passed by between when they left and when we hear about, Joseph being needed again? 2 full years. 2 years. Can you imagine being in 2 years in prison? Just nothing happening. He's there, falsely accused, and he's, praying every day that something will change. Well, something did change, because it turned out that Pharaoh started having some pretty strange dreams. Really, really strange, and he could not understand it. So the first dream, he says, he saw coming out of the Nile River, he saw 7 fat, healthy-looking cows, and they started grazing on the grass. But then, this is what's really weird, out of the Nile came 7 really skinny, ugly cows. And they came up and stood next to the healthy cows. And then they ate the healthy cows. Can you believe that? Each one of them just devoured the healthy cows. Oh my gosh. They ate them. That's a disturbing dream right there. He did not know what that meant. That woke him up. But he got himself back to sleep. And then he had another really weird dream. He saw 7 lovely bundles of grain. And they were healthy looking and tasty looking. And then all of a sudden, there were, next to those, 7 dried up, ugly looking bundles of grain. And they swallowed up the healthy ones. So it was almost like the one with the cows. And he woke up and he was very disturbed by these dreams. He thought, definitely these have a meaning, there's got to be something, and he started asking around who could tell him, what did these dreams mean? Well, then the cupbearer remembered. He's like, oh, there's this guy in prison. And he accurately told me my dream, and the chief baker's, remember, he's no longer around anymore. Joseph predicted that. And Pharaoh's like, really? He could tell me what these disturbing dreams mean? Go get this guy. Go get him. So Joseph is actually allowed out of the jail and goes into Pharaoh's palace. And Pharaoh explains the dreams. And again, Joseph makes sure he knows, well, interpreting dreams is God's business, but I communicate with God, I can help you. And after hearing those dreams, he said, well, the reason there were 7 of the healthy cows gotten eaten by 7 of the really sickly, ugly cows was because there's going to be 7 years of really good times. There's going to be a lot of, rain and growth, and you'll have a lot of food. But then it's going to be followed by 7 years of famine. That means there was drought and there was no food growing. And that's the same meaning for the dream with the grain. The 7 grain bundles were 7 years of good times. 7 years of good times. And then followed by 7 years of famine and where the food wouldn't be growing. So Pharaoh was like, wow, that's predicting the future. This is amazing. And Joseph says, yes, and you know what? You can prepare for this. All you need to do is during the 7 years of growth and good times when you have a lot of food, save some of it up. And then in the 7 years that are bad and you don't grow a lot of food, you'll have that stuff saved up and you'll be fine. You'll get through it, no problem. And Pharaoh says, great, all I have to do is find somebody to help me. So, stay tuned for part 3. What happens next? Who is Pharaoh going to get to help him? We'll find out tomorrow. Bye-bye.